Wellness for Life is brought to you by Back in Motion Physical Therapy, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic, Mahabi Atwa Community Action Partnership, Lakeside Sports and Pain Clinic, and Thomason, Swanson, and Zahn Attorneys at Law.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Gothenburg, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic in Pelican Rapids. Today I want to handle three subjects. The first one being something that I often hear, I think others do too, is when someone describes almost a grinding or a crepitus sound in the neck. The next person says, "Can you hear that? My neck is snappy." And the one I'm probably most concerned about is when someone tips back and they feel a shift and then a clunk. Well, the first one, usually when you have a long-standing or neglected condition, the muscle may become abrasive, and when muscles glide by each other, it produces the crepitus or grinding sound. The snapping sound is usually caused by a tight or taut muscle or tendon, and that tendon then, as it slides by a prominence on the vertebrae, produces the snap sound. The last one tells us there may be some degree of instability. We can help with each one of these, so I think it's important to let your chiropractor know. The second subject is fairly simple because oftentimes people ask, is there any harm in attempting to, in a self, make a correction or self-adjust oneself? And the main thing I want to tell people about that is that usually any time when someone begins to do something like this in an attempt to make a correction, all of these movements require twisting, and that amount of twisting or that amount of rotation is never healthy. And there are bad things that can happen, and so generally speaking, I don't think it, or I wouldn't recommend it at all. The last subject is something that we see every week in the clinic, and these are people that are coming in with sudden either neck or low back pain. And this is the type of pain that is often in sharp, stabbing, and limiting. In other words, it may leave that person with their head turned in this direction, and they go, well, I can't get back the other way. In the example that I have here, I'm showing a lumbar vertebrae, and what I've highlighted in green is the facet or joint. And here I'll create some space within that joint. If you can imagine something becoming impinged, in a sense pinched, this could be caused by an issue with alignment. The pain then is very abrupt, it's sharp, and it's often disabling. In other words, it's hard to stand or, for example, turn your head left and right. Once there's an impingement and there is pain, the events then are cyclical. In other words, pain produces swelling, which produces muscle spasm. The key at this point would be to unlock, in a sense, unhinge, or reposition the vertebrae. The best case scenario is that we get to do this within a single day. If it takes a person 2 or 3 days before they're in our clinic, there's still benefit, but it might take longer to get better. In this example, I've highlighted the facet or joint in red. You can clearly see that the joint is out of alignment. I've used a blue rubber band to represent a spasm. In this particular case, as the muscle spasms, it would limit that person from standing upright, likely leaning to their right, and their motion would be severely limited. In respect to the last scenario, here would be my advice, to use ice immediately and avoid heat. And then find a chiropractor or call our office, and you'd want to do this as soon as possible. And that's the best way to get better quickly. I hope this never happens to you, but if it does, feel free to call our office or find another chiropractor. Thanks a lot.
Coming up on Wellness for Life.
Hi, this is JT, and we're at Mojave, Ottawa today talking about taxes and their tax aid program. It is tax season, and with me today we have Marcia, the Family Development Director, Debbie, a volunteer tax preparer, and of course Loretta, the tax aid coordinator. And I wanted to talk to you first, Marcia, to talk a little bit about the tax aid program, how long it's existed, what it is, and where the funding comes from.
Okay. The tax aid program started approximately 20 years ago. Mojave, Ottawa uses volunteers to do the tax aid program, and the funding comes from the Internal Revenue Service and the Minnesota Department of Revenue, and also from West Central Initiative.
Very good. And Loretta, you are the tax aid coordinator, yes. And that's a big title, especially in tax season. And there's a lot of new things this year that we need to start thinking about for tax season. But some of the laws are still the same as we prepare our taxes this year. So let's talk a little bit about tax aid and where some of the funding comes from, but specifically what it is that you're doing here.
I basically coordinate all of the sites that we offer. We offer the tax aid, the volunteers to do the tax aid in each of the counties, which is Becker, Mahnomen, Wadena, and Hubbard.
And that's a pretty big project.
That is a big project, yes.
So what would you say for someone that might be looking for tax aid? Who are the people that you would serve, and how might they get in contact with you?
Okay, so basically the VITA stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance, and you have to have one of these, be 60 years or older, have a person with a disability, a person that speaks limited or no English, or your annual income is less than $54,000.
And if they're looking to have their taxes prepared with Mojave, Ottawa, who would they contact then? They
would call each of the sites. Like I had stated, Mahnomen, Becker here would be Detroit Lakes, and Wadena, and Hubbard.
Very good. All right, well, let's turn it over to Debbie, who is actually doing a lot of the tax preparing, and you're a volunteer, correct?
Correct.
So if I came in and I'm ready to do my taxes, what are some of the things that I would need to bring with me to the appointment?
Okay, this year the IRS is really cracking down on identity theft, and so they're requiring us that we have to see a picture ID, so that would be a driver's license for the taxpayer and the spouse. And then besides that, we need to see the Social Security cards for everyone who will be on the return, plus the birthdays of everybody on the return. And then if you are going to want your refund direct deposited, or if you're going to want your balance due to come out of your bank account, it's really good if you bring in a blank check so that we can get the routing number and the account number off of the check for that purpose. And other items are your basic items that most people are pretty good about this. Your W-2s, if you have income statements from a job, interest and dividend statements, the sale of stock, you'll find that on the 1099-B. The retirement income, that'll be the 1099-Rs, the gambling winnings, anything, unemployment, Social Security benefits. If it looks official, bring it in. We like to say that it's better for you to bring in things and we can go through it and say, oh, that's not needed for taxes, that's good, instead of you coming in and saying, well, yeah, I have this at home, and then you have to make another appointment because you didn't bring it along. So let us make the decision there. And if you've gotten your health insurance through MNsure, then you'll be receiving a 1095-A in the mail. And we need this before we can do your taxes because it helps us to calculate the premium tax credit. Other people have maybe used MNsure to get their health insurance. If they're on medical assistance or Minnesota Care, they might have gone through MNsure, but they won't receive the 1095-A. So it's the 1095-As that we're looking for. And you also might receive a 1095-B or a 1095-C, and that will come either from your employer or from the insurance agent that you're getting insured through that wasn't through MNsure. And you can bring those in too that we'll look at. if and then the last thing is too, we always like it if you bring in last year's returns. If we have some kind of question about how did things work or something, then we have that prior year return to fall back on and double check things. So that's always good.
Lot going on. I'm confused already, and that's why you're a trusted volunteer for, what, 20 years now?
No, I've only been, this is my 8th year here.
All right. Well, you've been doing it a long time. You're going to walk us through all of this stuff. You're going to make sure our taxes get done properly. That's the Tax Aid Program, Mojave, Ottawa. You can go to their website and find all the details or stop by and schedule your appointment, and it's free. So thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Wellness for Life. Brought to you by Back in Motion Physical Therapy, Gothenburg Chiropractic Clinic, Mojave, Ottawa Community Action Partnership, Lakeside Sports and Pain Clinic, and Thomason, Swanson, and Zahn Attorneys at Law.